All right, guys, thank you for joining me in yet another segment talking about the Pikamee situation and the developing news around the situation. Please consider liking and or subscribing to the channel if you find segments like this to be important. And without further ado, we're going to get right into it today. As you're probably aware, there's been a growing narrative to try and shift all the blame from the people who have harassed and bullied Pikamee and to actually blame her and her fans instead, such as the corpos over at Kotaku, and this article, for example, titled "Popular VTuber Pikamee Retires Following Hogwarts Legacy Controversy" by Sissy Jiang. Funny enough, that's the same author who actually wrote that article about Stray, trying to link it to like some reach about racism. Let's break down some of the many issues with this Corpo article. For example, where they write, Pikamee originally planned to stream Hogwarts Legacy when it launched on February 10th. Upon reportedly receiving criticism for plans to broadcast such a controversial game, she canceled her stream and stopped producing content for the rest of February. So first of all, do I even need to point this out? I think we can all see it's very obvious that they're trying to water down what happened to Pikamee, saying, oh, she wasn't harassed at all, she wasn't bullied at all. It was just criticism. That's essentially what they're trying to say. Now, while there were plenty of remarks that were just criticism, it's also a fact that she did receive a lot of harassment. Yesterday, her agency, VOMS Project, announced she is graduating from the VTubing group. The official announcement made no mention of whether or not the VTuber had planned to retire before her streaming plans blew up, but it emphasized that she wanted to leave in a positive way. Kotaku also viewed videos from other VTubers showing the negative responses to Pikamee, which included commenters reportedly trying to explain their reasons for the suggested boycott or questioning her commitment as an ally to transgender people. Couple things with that one. Hey Kotaku, I made a video a couple days ago showing a couple of trans people accusing her of being a pedo. You want to look at that video and comment on that? No, you don't? Okay, yeah, I thought so. Also, really weird phrasing for the author to say questioning her commitment as an ally to transgender people. Has Pikamee ever referred to herself as an ally to transgender people? Because I don't think she has. If I'm mistaken, please do let me know. The point I'm getting at is that people can care about trans people and still not refer themselves as an ally. I talked about this point in a video 2 days ago, actually. I said that personally myself, I'm cool with all types of people as long as they're like cool and chill and nice to others. That's what I care about. I don't care if they're trans or whatever. However, you'll still never catch me calling myself an ally because I think that's some weird phrasing. I think it's weird stuff, and I've seen too many of these alleged allies just being predatory to the people that they're allegedly trying to be allies to. Furthermore, I just find the phrasing to be really weird. Like, I'm a trans ally. Okay, so you're implying you're only allied to trans people? Like, that alone seems discriminatory towards trans people because you're like grouping them differently from the rest of humanity. At the top now, because Pikamee's Hogwarts Legacy tweets have been deleted, it's hard to get a holistic view of how strongly people actually opposed her stream. That's not true, actually. You can still absolutely get a reasonable analysis of that metric despite the tweet being deleted because guess what? There's other tweets that people have made about Pikamee and the situation, and you can see those. Though evidence suggests that criticism was clear in its disappointment, but did not seem to escalate to harassment. However, Pikamee's most militant fans seem to take issue with the call-out all the same. Literally downplaying the harassment and bullying Pikamee received and calling her fans militant like there's some kind of armed militia or something? You gotta be kidding me. You know, I routinely in pretty much every segment, and I've made this point again, I'm sorry for being redundant, it's just absurd to me, that I'm not a trans person, I'm not a trans ally, and I'm here trying to diffuse the situation. And then you get people like the author of this article, who I think is trans, and they're gonna go call Pikamee's entire fan base militant and like downplay what happened. What do you think that's gonna do? What do you think that's gonna do, Kotaku author? Do you think that's going to help, or do you think that's going to make people more upset? I also love how so many of these trans activists and allies are ignoring the fact that there's a lot of trans people that like Pikamee's content and have no issue with her at all. For example, in a tweet with over 1,700 likes, we have Anime Junkie saying that they are transgender and stand with Pikamee, adding that harassers who targeted gamers like Pikamee have only made them look bad, and that transphobes now have free ammunition that they can use against them, saying that the trans community is now tainted by terrible behavior. There were also a number of trans people defending Silverveil during last week when she was getting so much heat. And like I said, they were coming out defending her as well. And you know what happened to them? Other trans people insulted them and called them pick-me's. So it's just really weird when corpos and these other people with some level of influence on Twitter, which that sounds really funny, excuse me. But here, the point does stand though. You know, they're trying to make it seem like all the trans people are all on the same side and they all are like a hive mind and they all agree with the same thing, when that's not true, not even close to true. And it's really an awful thing when there are so many kind, nice trans people out there calling out the harassment, trying to like diffuse the situation as well. And for whatever reason, these Twitter trans activists and these corpos, these journalists, they just ignore the nice trans people out there, ignore all that, and then try to shove all the trans people on the side of the people who actually have been harassing people and bullying them. And then they just try and manipulate the entire narrative by lying to people and misrepresenting the facts. This mere possibility has led trans and allies to fear the speculation regarding Pikamee's graduation will lead to an increased transphobia in the VTuber community, as it paints the problem group as trans people and trans allies. So yeah, basically everything I just said would also apply to that as well. It's just more manipulation and more misrepresentation of people, including trans people. Whatever Pikamee meant to her fans while she was actively streaming, it seems she's now become a martyr for those bemoaning the side effects of cancel culture, and others looking for an excuse to attack a marginalized group. Okay, Corpo, if you actually care about the marginalized group, maybe you shouldn't just bake in toxic people like the trans people who have falsely accused her of being a pedo with the ones who are completely innocent and good. That's it for the Kotaku article. Let's move on to the official statement now from VOM's creator Gyari.
実はピカミーとはかなり長い間協議を重ねていまして、卒業すること自体はだいぶ前から決まってました。だいぶ前から。で、丸井さんとの打ち合わせの中で、ちょっとめちゃくちゃ申し訳ないんですけどっていう感じで、ちょっと一回お詫びの打ち合わせがありまして実はちょっとピカミが卒業してしまうんですけども、するんですけどもっていう話をしたところ、丸井さん的にはもう前向きな卒業っていう形だったらもう全然問題ないですって言っていただけたんでね、もう大変ありがたかったですね、そこは。
So far, that statement seems like it's rather divisive in of itself. Some people are saying that this absolutely, completely frees from guilt any of the people that harassed Pikamee. I do have a counterpoint to that, which we'll get to. But first, let's go over the rest of this. Other people, however, are taking different angles, saying basically that that comes off as damage control, and they don't really believe it. Some even pointing out alleged discrepancies between that statement and the initial statement that was made via text, making it seem like it wasn't planned so far in advance. Other comments saying essentially that the rep of the company will not just come out and say that she was graduating because of harassment, and going on a little further, others calling it damage control, others questioning why Pikamee had plans to stream for a year, however conversely others pushing back on that, mentioning her prior break. It is a bit of a difficult situation because people want to respect Pikamee. However, it's also very reasonable for people to question official statements by companies. Companies are not known for trustworthiness, oftentimes, no offensive bombs. That's a general statement. And speaking in generalizations further, it is often a wise move to question a corporate statement and to acknowledge that they're likely withholding certain information. Ultimately, as always, make up your own opinion on that stuff. And I will mention what I said at the very end of my last segment. For argument's sake, let's say that Pikamee had already planned on graduating, and all that is actually true. Unfortunately, or not so unfortunately, it's just a fact of reality, really, that doesn't diffuse the situation. That doesn't negate the fact that Pikamee was harassed and bullied, and she stopped streaming Hogwarts Legacy. And as a matter of fact, one could make the argument that that makes the bullying and harassment sound even worse. Because if she already planned on graduating, and she therefore knew she only had, at that point in time when that harassment started, that she only had around a month and a half left with her community, a month and a half left to stream, literally a month and a half left to be Pikamee, and she still decided to cancel her streams and take off from the internet, despite the fact that the clock, was ticking so much. Again, one could make the assessment that that would mean the bullying and harassment was even worse, to force her in such a situation to still just want to drop it all. Also, of course, we have to take into account how it also affected her community, her viewers, and other people around her as well. Other people around her were also very sad to see this all happen. And even, again, if the harassment didn't directly lead to her graduation date, to ignore all of the awful things that it did do would be quite a slap in the face to those who were victimized by the harassment. And such a thing would yet again rile people up who are also witnessing all this happen. It is quite disturbing how these activists and corpos will so readily change a narrative, and they don't feel bad for manipulating people like that at all, it seems. Like, just the fact that that one article even referred to Pikamee's viewers as militant. Bizarre stuff, man. The manipulation is also occurring over on Reddit. In this post, for example, from our virtual YouTubers with the headline, Kason subtly tells angry Pikamee mobs to stop. This is a complete misrepresentation of what she actually said in this video. The moderator, Chinese Maple, even locking the thread and saying, misleading title. The OP adding, basically, Kason is saying stop with hate mobs on both sides. And we all know Kason of all people have dealt with this situation, so. And other Redditors would also call the OP out. For example, this post reading, Kason doesn't specifically talk about any hate mobs. She just talks about the people who want to make a fuss but don't care about it. Kind of sounds like the people that bullied Pikamee in the first place. They made a fuss but don't actually care. Nowhere in this clip does she say both sides either. I mean, this OP is doing what CN did to Coco. He spun the narrative to suit whatever he wanted to say / believe, despite that not being what she actually meant. I guess anything for that sweet internet points. The OP actually responding here saying, I am spinning the narrative to trying to cool down the hate mob. You can have the internet points. You rarely see me post any topic new post in this sub, despite being here for a long time now. Too many anti-Hogwarts forced Pikamee to graduate narrative going on, when for me at least, that is not the case. That Redditor then trying to give some excuse for why they did what they did. In my opinion, what they did is very, very awful, not helpful at all, and only going to make things worse. You can't just lie to people and misrepresent what someone said for the sake of you trying to cool down a hate mob. Yeah, you're going to cool it down by lying to people and manipulating people and taking what Kason said out of context and like lying about her too. Yeah, I'm sure that's going to work out real well. Another Redditor also commenting saying, so it's okay to put words in people's mouth to suit your agenda? Let's be real. Whatever you post here won't be changing the hate mob's mind. None of them is going to come here and be like, oh yeah, that makes sense. All your post does is give people like you a pat on the back as if you are better than the others who are full of hate. I think I've made this point before. I don't even know, guys. We've talked about this topic for going on 2 weeks. Actually, excuse me. I think it's actually been like 3 weeks now since Hogwarts Legacy even started with all this stuff. So I may be repeating some of my points, and I apologize. I'm having a difficult time keeping track of everything I've said in the last 3 weeks. But you can clearly see there is a massive attempt at manipulating people into believing a very specific, untrue narrative about this situation. Now, thankfully, at least, while this narrative is being spread on places like Twitter and Reddit, there are also good people on Twitter and Reddit that are pushing back against that stuff. And of course on YouTube. How could I not show a little love to you viewers here? Thank you again for tuning in. And actually, I didn't plan this out. However, I think that's everything I wanted to hit in this video, actually. Those were the 3 main things. The Kotaku article, the Reddit manipulation, and what was it? Oh yeah, the VOM statement, of course, as well. So those have all now been covered. Yeah, I guess that's the end of the video. Again, it's an abrupt ending. I'm kind of lost for words now because I didn't realize we were so close to the end, but that is the main stuff. So I suppose I won't take up any more of your time. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope I've been doing a decent job covering this stuff over the last number of weeks or so. You know, trying to be fair to all sides involved, trying to diffuse the situation as much as I can without getting too involved, while also not lying and manipulating people like some others are, because I think that's the wrong thing to do. And again, as I've stressed over and over again, I think that's only going to make things worse. So I hope my coverage has at least been decent. Again, thank you for your time. I'll see you in the comments and tomorrow for the next segment.